Hi guys, it's Nicole, and we meaning me, are gonna start my process here. I don't normally go into like this type of footage before my process, but I wanted to touch on a couple things that I am kind of running into. So this video is part of the hop that I'm hosting where we're all working through the new Creating with Sketches class, sketchbook bundle, whatever you want to call it, from Allison Davis at Scrapbook Generation. However, I prepped this back in December, and by prepped I mean I matched up photos to sketches, whatever modifications I was doing with the photos, printed them out, and I don't know what my plan was. Normally I take like decent notes. I'll write something down to like remind myself what I was changing, what I was doing. That was not the case this time. I'm trying to see, okay, let's see. A lot of times I will draw myself like a rough sort of sketch and like some kind of note, something to go off of. Literally all I wrote was the date, that it was field day, and that I had modified the photos. That's all the information I gave. Past me gave current me. Current me is pretty upset with past me. So with that being said, I am in a sense kind of coming at this as if I had just pre-printed my photos. And kind of a good example, because these are all 3x4s, I just cut them in half to rework them. They were all 4x6 prints that just, you know, they had one on each side. I'm not sure if I accidentally printed this one. I don't know if my intention was to use a 4x6 at this point. No, it's not gonna fit. So based on the sketch, and if you have the bundle, like, you can look this up, guaranteed I probably told myself that at least one of these empty spots was going to be for journaling. And I was like, well, maybe the other empty spot, I thought, okay, I'll put a title in, something like that. However, this specific sketch shows like a long title. And if you know me, I love a good chance to make like some dickers and make a long title, mix up some fonts, that kind of thing. So depending on size is kind of what's going to dictate what spacing I have left, because again, I modified my photos. I want to say that the original sketch, the total was, well, where's the original? 3 and 3. So the original, the total height was 6 inches. So you've got at least, that makes it, math is hard, a 3-inch margin around. Mine, and this is not going to be a 6, mine's going to be an 8-inch, so that's going to change my margin around, and it's going to change how much room I have. So I'm kind of falling back on a lot of the stuff that I showed in my 4x6 online class, where I kind of walk you through how I plan based on what area is left after you've figured out what your photos are going to be. So I'm kind of merging two kind of class concepts here. I already forgot what the second issue that I was running into, because that's just sort of where I'm at right now. I'm just kind of all over the place. So didn't leave myself notes. I know I'm not going to have a collection that's going to go with this. So this is field day. My kids never get the cute color shirts. They always end up with like yellow, orange, or gray. Like they assign colors and they're never like cute colors. I don't know. So dug through my stash and was just kind of looking for bright and basic. I found this old stuff from Simple Stories Little Dude line. So I'm kind of thinking that this is going to be, like, I always like to have at least one paper that kind of has like all of the colors in it, so that I can either do like a skinny strip or something. And this is kind of what I base everything off of. So I found these B-sides that were in there. I kind of like this. I have no idea what I'm doing as far as like background papers. I don't love the setup on the samples and on the options. So I'm kind of trying to figure that out. I do think that I'm going to go with the stars that are depicted on there, mostly because at this point, I think every layout I've done in the last week, I've used stars, so might as well just keep this stuff out and keep going. And then I think I'm just going to kind of pull in stuff like this to where I can get some more B-sides and some more colors that kind of line up with this. And I found these. I think this is the only thing I have that matches this line. Maybe some enamel dots, I don't even know. So kind of a rough start. I'm not going to start cutting paper until I make a decision on what I want to do background wise and kind of go from there. But I didn't want to just kind of jump in and act like I wasn't sort of already starting lost. So with that, I think I'm going to sit down and kind of mentally start thinking about what I'm going to do with these spaces that I have left open for myself. I know that I don't want to get rid of any of these photos. I think all the photos that I have I like, so I'm going to kind of play around and, I don't know, figure something out and go from there. All right, so we are going to get into assembling this layout, and 100%, I mean me, I am going to stick pretty close to the main sketch like components. Like I mentioned in my kind of intro clip, I did modify my photos, which does kind of affect the sort of border and space that goes around it. So I decided to go with one of the modifications or one of the options that had like a bunch of 1-inch strips on one side and then a large piece of paper on the other side. I kept going back and forth on if I wanted to do a bunch of strips going across, but I kind of felt like I've done that, I don't know, a handful of times, I would say, in the last month or two, and so I was just kind of over that. This was one of those processes where I was struggling. I think because I did not leave myself enough notes when I did the original planning and prepping phase, that when it came down to needing to assemble everything, I couldn't remember what my original sort of thought process was. And I was sort of already just heavily fatigued when it came to decision making. You guys are going to see my videos out of order because they're going to go up. Basically, whatever's due first is what you're going to see first. So during the month of June, I am participating with Lisa over in Life and Layouts with the Dark Side of Scrapbooking challenge that we have come up with and we are co-hosting. I'll link stuff down below. However, this is the first of the month, so this layout is part of the Creating with Sketches hop, and knowing that this goes up on the 1st, I know that this is sort of where I have to start my editing phase, but this was the last video that I created in the month of June. So you guys are going to kind of see me work a little bit out of order, but by the time I am assembling this layout, I know that I am heavily not in the mood to do a 2-page layout. I kind of had to kick myself through phase 3 of this challenge. Thankfully, Lisa, like I said, she's co-hosting. She sort of kept her foot on my behind as well and was like, you need to get your stuff done. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I believe when I was putting this layout together, I'm actually on video chat with her, just kind of cropping together for an afternoon. And I noticed that that definitely kind of helped my motivation and just kind of helped me sort of avoid those thoughts of I'm not really in the mood, but this needs to get done. I could just kind of get it done and figure out which steps needed to get done in what order and that type of thing. So I feel like figuring out what my game plan was originally and then figuring out how I wanted to arrange my background photos probably was the, I would say, most difficult part of this process. And I think I find that the most annoying for me personally, because that's the part of the process that I typically enjoy, is planning out the paper. So when I struggle with that phase, I'm just kind of moody and annoyed with myself. But we move on. I was determined to get this done. I like to have my stuff done early. I'm actually a couple days late when it comes to posting this for the Girls in the Hop, but I'm still going to have it up by the 1st. So that's a win for me. Now, like I said, I modified my photos. I printed all of mine in Portrait 3x4s, and I'm just going to kind of I'm going to mat them on some white cardstock. Had past me figured out that this was what current me was going to do, 100% I would have done this digitally in Photoshop and just printed it on letter size paper and trimmed it out. That would have been way easier. But they were already printed, so I didn't want to go back and find the photos, crop the photos. I like work with what's here and kind of move on. It's fine. It doesn't need to be perfect type of a thing. I did decide to take some black ink, and I inked the edge of the black and white pattern paper and the edges of my photos. I felt like I just needed something to help them kind of stand out from each other. And then again, I'm following pretty heavily on this sketch because my photos are from a field day event at the school. I'm not going to have anything that's like, we're not super sporty people, so I don't have like a lot of like sports themed stuff. Even field days, not like, there's not a lot of like sports elements and stuff. It's more just kind of like fun outdoor games. So to me, the stars that are depicted on the sketch as sort of that placeholder for whatever icon you want to use, good enough for me. I did make some like star frames, and I picked some of those to stitch through. I will say the easiest way that I can find to poke the holes through these is I go through and poke a hole at the like point of each star, and then like in the corner. So like point, corner. I go around, and then I just take a straight edge, and whatever the first sort of arm of that star, I go through and just kind of eyeball the spacing. I count how many holes I poked, and I just poke the same amount of holes on all the other arms. And that's consistent enough for me. It's gonna look even-ish, and that's good enough. We go with good enough here, okay? So I don't remember if I ended up cutting more stars, but I used the same papers from the pattern paper strips that I had cut out, and I just took a die set. I think my stars are from Waffle Flower. To do the frames, I just put 2 of them down on my mat, center it the best I can, and then I take like washi tape or Scotch tape them together. And when you run it through, it will cut a frame, as well as the smallest star will be like a solid star. You could even tape a couple of them together if you're trying to save space and get a couple frames out. I think originally I thought I was going to do a ton more stars, but you guys, I got to tell you, if I don't see a star for a really long time, I'll be very happy. For whatever reason, the majority of the stuff that I made in the month of June involved stars, and by the time I got to this point, they just looked weird to me. They did not look like a star anymore. So trying to arrange them, they just, I don't know. It's kind of like when you look at a word for too long, you know it's spelled right, but it feels wrong because you've been staring at it for too long. That was me and the stars. So, like I said in the beginning, I wasn't sure what I was going to do with these openings. Once I got my photos attached to the layout, I did not like that I didn't have a ton of space down on the bottom to put my title. So I'm going to have the left side space is going to be a place that I can decorate with my title. The upper one I'm going to decorate with my journaling. And then I'll just have the 2 corners that are depicted on the sketch with the star clusters, and I'm going to call it good. I will say that before I go to put this away, I forgot to date it, so I need to date it. And I actually ordered a small set of star dies that make the star that looks like this sketchy, like quick drawn star. I don't know how to describe it. I'm probably going to die cut some of those and add them to this layout before I put it away, but I don't know when they're going to get here, and I didn't want to wait, and I didn't want to use that as an excuse to not get this done. We are, and we is me, me and all my personalities, are really trying to sort of navigate this season of working through when I'm not in the mood to do something, following through and finishing things, carving out routines, that kind of thing. I will say I don't typically work at night. I found myself good 5-6 days I was up here working at night on things, which I don't normally do. But again, I think knowing that I could hop on like a video call with a friend or save like a couple videos to watch and just kind of almost add like a second shift in my day up here, I think was the only way that I was getting anything done. Now, I am going to have a longer dedicated video, but this is what I lovingly refer to as dickers. I had somebody recently ask me, what do you mean, what is a dicker? It's basically DIY thickers. A couple years ago, I'm watching a card making video. Somebody is stacking die cuts, and my brain lights up and says, ooh, what if I could do this with alphabet dies? Because I get annoyed with letter stickers when I don't have the right size, I don't have the right color, there's not enough letters, I don't like them, they're too expensive, yada yada. Ever since then, ever since I made that first set, oh, I love it. Can't get enough of them. Lovingly refer to them as dickers. Like I said, DIY thickers, and then you're also kind of dicking around to glue them together. But I absolutely love them. So like I said, probably the next video after this is going to be a dedicated video, kind of breaking down the process of dickers, different things that you can do, my favorite supplies, suggestions for different things, different dies that I love, kind of things to look out for, anything that I can possibly think of. If you have a specific dicker related question, I would say drop it down in the comments or over in my Facebook group. I'm going to open up a thread for anybody that has a specific question or something that they kind of want to see in more detail. And I'm going to try to include everything into that video, because the majority of the times that I've spoken about this or done like little tutorials, it's always in like the middle of a process video. And so it's not something that I can always like find to rely on when somebody's asking me a specific question. Like if somebody asks me about journaling strips, I have a tutorial for just that. I can link that. If somebody's asking me about photo collages, I have a dedicated video for that. I can link that. When it's mixed into a process video, I think it's a little harder for somebody to kind of go back and find that. I think I just kind of assume that if you're subscribed, maybe you watch me enough that you've probably seen it and you're tired of hearing about it, but I don't know. I can only go off of what I'm seeing in the comments and questions that I get asked on Facebook and Instagram and private message and stuff like that. So back to the layout. I did dickers for the word field and day, and then I went and grabbed some little, these are super old October afternoon letter stickers, and I just wanted to show you that if you are super careful with those like foam squares, if you get them in the wrong spot and you like, it leaves like the gummy behind, if you just take your tweezers or like an X-Acto knife and you're just kind of patient, you can roll that up, peel it right off, put another foam square behind it, good to go. With stuff like that, I do try not to push down until I have them like where I want them, because I tend to move those around a lot. To me, those are a little bit harder to line up. And then I grabbed these black ones from Doodlebug. These are the teensy type. I don't know if they still make these. I should probably look, because I really like these and I'm running out. But I like mixing different sizes, fonts, colors, shapes into my title, especially if my title is acting as like an embellishment type of area. Now, I saved you the painfully long amount of time it took me to arrange these stars. Like I said, I don't know what it is. Looking at all of these, it was just, nothing looked right. I hated everything. So I finally just had to be like, this is fine, it's good enough. Glue them down, call it good, and move on. And once I arrange everything, oof, the thought of moving them all off and trying to get them back. I did take photos, so I am kind of loosely looking back at photos on my phone for where they go. But I typically try to just carefully pull things, glue it, shove it back under there, and kind of just work my way from like back to front. And then I like to put something on top to hold it down while it dries. The stars that are stitched, I tend to put my adhesive on the back of the thread and not the paper, because it's pretty much whatever's going to touch the paper is where you want the glue to go. For my journaling, I typed it and printed it out on a scratch piece of this notebook pattern paper. This is from a 6x6 pad from My Favorite Things. And you'll see here, I've cut stars out of it. It is going to have a little cut out of that corner. Again, it's fine. I end up adding a couple stars to kind of cover that up. To me, I was like, I'm not going to get another full sheet of paper if I can fit 90% of it on this scrap. When a star can cover this little corner, it'll be great. And like I said, I think when I get those star dies I ordered, I might add a couple like just tiny stars sprinkled in and some of those other ones that give it a little bit of a different shape, and kind of fill in with some different colors and different sizes. I think that was sort of what my overall unhappiness with the finished project was. But again, I kind of just needed to get things done and sort of stop finding a reason to not finish it. I can always add stuff later. It's kind of like when you're putting a layout away and you think, ooh, I need enamel dots. Similar type of vibe for me. So with that, my layout is done. Links below to the entire hop in the description box, and anything else that I think I may have mentioned, I will try to link as well. I always appreciate you guys stopping by, spending time with me, especially if you make it to the end of the video, and I'll catch you next time.